You think you're traumatized until you read this story and it's like, I've not even gone through half of it. Welcome to yet another episode of OMG, another podcast. How have you been? I've been very well. Feels like it's been a while since I've recorded to me, but it just feels good to be back. Today, I am talking all things books. There's always a pile of books next to me if you've never noticed, and most of the time it's decor. But today we are talking all things books and the books that I've read this year that left an impression on me. And sorry about that. I don't know. I'm choking up about my books, but it's something that I love. So I'm part of this book club called the Bookish Collective. Shout out to you, my book club. And this is something that our founder and a coordinator, is it a coordinator, moderator, Vanessa does all the time. She does like a quick overview of the book and what basically she learned from it. So I was thinking, why not? I'm always having a pile of books and I want to get into it and see what it's all about. So, first things first, the first book. This is a book called The First Woman. It's by Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi. I hope I did not butcher your name. I am so into names and I like getting names right. So this book, I loved it. It was part of our most recently concluded book club read of the month. And when I saw this book, I almost cried because we had just a few weeks to finish it. And I don't know if you can see the length. And I don't know if I can show you the font and how tiny it is. And I truly almost wept. I remember the person who recommended this in the book club. Her name is Teriro, one of my good friends. And I think I cursed her out, even on social. I was like, why? Why would you do this to us? But safe to say, this is probably my favorite book. Actually, there's a tie. My favorite book that I read this year. And basically what this book talks about and goes into, it follows a young lady as she grows into a young woman and young adulthood. It was set up in Uganda. So first of all, even just being a book, set in East Africa felt very relatable to basically our own individual experiences. And it's this lady who is growing up, and the themes that are around it are around womanhood, coming of age, tradition, marriage, all those good things. So it follows a lady called Kirabo. I call her Kirabo, but I think the Ugandans call her Chirabo. But they follow the story of Kirabo and basically how, there are so many secrets within the African families, which we know they're there. There are so many secrets within your African family. But it basically, when she enters her teens, she questions the status quo. She questions why things are done the way they are. And I love the fact that they use the metaphor of her flying to symbolize her being rebellious or wanting to ask questions, because traditionally it was not expected, especially of a young woman, a young girl, to be asking questions. So basically it's taking us through her life and her lens when she's navigating being in love for the first time, trusting a man who broke her heart for the first time, friendship also with her childhood female friend and how they fell out and how she betrayed her. And, also some of these family secrets that really plagued their family for a long time. And, the way it came out and how she found out obviously really hurt her. And so it begs the question of how important is it for African families to keep on having these secrets in the first place? Because as we grow older, we will find them out. So I loved this book because, and I wondered, what are you saying in all these many pages and small words? But I loved this book because it really gets into, we grew up with her throughout the book. We grew up with her from the time she's a teenager, and then she goes into boarding school. At the same time, she's, navigating love. At the same time, she's navigating these secrets. At the same time, she's also navigating her own identity, because she goes into a high school where women are, she's meeting other young women who are free with their bodies. They're not ashamed of being naked. There are some who are even just free to explore their sexuality, and that really challenges everything that she has been taught. And then I think one of the things that really jumped, up to me for this book was the choice that women have had to make. This book, first of all, was set in the 70s, 1970s. Now we have to be careful because you can say 17s and I'm meaning 2027, but it's just still a mind fuck for me in terms of where we're at. Also, just forgive my ADHD brain, which is something we were joking about with the team earlier. Do you know the way we look at? I was watching. I saw a tweet that said the same way we look at, for millennials specifically, the same way we look at movies from the 80s is the same way the younger generation look at, for example, Princess Diaries that came out in the early 2000s because there's a 20-year age gap. I'll let that sink in because that broke my heart. I saw that tweet and I unsaw it immediately because what do you mean? So, but basically just tying it back to the book, it's so interesting how women then had to choose between having a family and also choosing their career. And that for me was the same thing that, a modern woman goes through. If like there's almost like a price to pay, whether you like it or not. If a woman decides to go for her career 1,000%, there's something, especially within her personal life, that she's going to have to be giving up or sacrificing in one way or another. And so this book just reminded me, as much as things are different, some things are still very much the same. So if you are into just exploring that kind of theme, womanhood, coming of age, just basically how our African setup is and our families, the secrets, navigating adulthood, young womanhood, I think this is a book for women at all ages. I think it just reminds us about who we are, our own personal journeys, and in some way, you see yourself in Kirabo's story or even another person's story, especially the women in this book. So I love it, very poignant for that. It's called The First Woman. I get it. Please read it. Let me know what you think when you do. So that's the first book, one of the most, actually of all time, favorite books of all time. So the second book that I am going to be talking about today is called Little Rot by Akwake Emezi. So this is what it looks like. I know there's also an alternative cover to this one. But let me tell you, I read this before I read The First Woman. But this book actually blew me away with how the author starts this book. In fact, I had to pause. It is nasty. It is filthy. It is vulgar. It's on your face. There's no fluff. It's going into the grit of things. And I was just actually telling Mumbi that this book was set within 3 days only, from Friday to Sunday, literally. And you don't realize it because you go through so much with this book. But basically, it just talks about sexuality, especially in the contemporary and modern African setting. And the reason I say African setting is because that's how the book has been set up. But and how there's a thin line between morality and immorality. Sometimes I just wanted to really shake the characters in the book and wonder, do you have no moral compass? Do you have no full stop? Do you have nothing? What is going on with you? But this book it's called Little Rot, but this is a lot of rot. This book is a lot. It's a lot. Like, there were some things I was even like reading with one page. And then this is a kind of book, by the way, when you're outside, you're like, hey, Abu, let me hide this page I'm reading. Hey, people don't think I'm nasty. But just so beautifully written by the author, such clean writing. And I'm those people who, by the way, when I'm reading a book, even watching a movie, I wonder, why did the creator introduce this character? What was their intention? What was that about? But this one, no questions. You knew exactly why someone has been introduced, what their story was. Let me tell you, there's even a juicy story here about a pastor who is, sexually, very, very sexually immoral. So, and it's something that happens in today's society, but the way it's been written so explicitly, so out there, beautiful book, beautifully written, not because it's nasty that I'm saying you should read it, but because of how the book has been expressed throughout, and basically just how it follows the story of 5 people who, over the course of the weekend, literally append their lives because of sexual immorality and the choices that they make. But it's just how it's been written and how it's been set up. Please read this book, Little Rot, that in my mind should have been called A Lot of Rot. Third book, this one. This was also another pick from the book club. It's called The Perfect Marriage, but obviously, I don't know if you can see, the perfect has been rubbed off, and it's by Geneva Rose. And this is, I think, the second version of this book. So funny enough, when we were doing a research about this book, we realized that apparently, and she tells it in the bonus chapter, she says that she had to rewrite this book because a reader was so mad at her about how this book went, literally went into her email, cursed her out, said that this book was not written well, etc. And she was so challenged by it, and she decided to do something about it and rewrote the book, or at least reimagined some plots. So basically, if you ask me, this is this is a book that should have been a sensational movie. Just think of a Tyler Perry movie. I think that's the best way I could describe it. It's not that deep. I know you're going to be going there for character growth. Why did the character do that? That does not make sense that the character did that. But this book, I would describe it as, it's so bad, it's good. It's so bad that I remember there's a sequel to this book, and I think it's called The Perfect Divorce. And I was telling the girls in the book club, we must read it. And they're like, yeah, you're on your own. You read that by yourself. But for me, I found it so entertaining. Like, it was so bad. The plot, there was so many plot holes. The characters didn't make sense as to what they were doing. But it basically follows the story of this lady called Sarah. Her husband has been accused of murder of his mistress, and she is the one defending him. So I don't know why the husband thinks that's a good idea for your wife to be defending you, even though she's the best defense lawyer and you have just cheated on her and the mistress is dead. So there's some plots, like the plot twists in there within this book. I would say this is just a book if you want to read for the fun of just reading a book. But like, if you're like a serious literature, I want the plot, I want the character acts, I want growth in this character. I want to see how they started from rags to riches or riches to rags. This is not the book for you. But if you just want like a very fun, light, oh my God, that was such a bad book that it was kind of good, I really want to see what they'll do with the sequel, this is the book for you. And this is to my Bookish Collective girlies. I am literally going to find The Perfect Divorce, the sequel to this, and I am going to read it, and I'm going to talk your ear off. I remember some of the girls actually were with me, and we kind of got into the plot of what happens in the next book. It's so bad that, I can't wait to read that. So, yeah, so basically the reason why this book made it to the list is because it's so bad. It's good to me. Hope you enjoy it. Final book. This one is so famous right now. Nearly all the men in Lagos are mad. It's a compilation of a couple of short stories. And if you ask me, it's very similar to The Confessions of Nairobi women specifically, because this follows the story of love, but it's set up in Lagos, Nigeria. So just some crazy stories. And, some of the stories about like a young lady, for example, who supports her man and then her man drops her. There's this other one that this young lady just goes cray and she's so mad at her man and she decides to take out a knife at her husband's penis and in front of her whole family. It is wild. It has 12 short stories. So if you want to read basically a book that will make you say, thank God I've not gone through that, and may I not go. This is a kind of book that actually tells you, that makes you pray and tells God, like, please, may I never encounter such a man. You think you're traumatized until you read this story and it's like, I've not even gone through half of it. So, a fun book, well written, poignant, straight to the point. Even talks about a pastor's wife here who's, always defending her husband when he's accused of adultery and why she did it. Because it's like, we always say like, oh, if my man cheats on me, I'm out of there ASAP. But like, are you going to be out of there ASAP, especially if he's a rich mega church pastor and you're also hiding a secret? I don't know. Read some more. But this book literally gave me nightmares and gave me more PTSD about men. And you know how I feel about that topic. So nearly all the men in Lagos are mad. I would also say nearly all the men, if not all, the men in Nairobi, Kenya are mad, or just around the world. And it's by Damilare Kuku. So I'm just so grateful for my book club because I think it just expands my reading culture. I'm very much into African authors. That's my thing and my spiel. But they kind of stretch me, and there's so many other books that we've read in our book club, but I feel like these are the ones that really spoke to me this year and they made me feel something. I love reading books that make me feel something. I love the fact that I love reading. People ask me how I do it. I think maybe it's just a habit and something that I'm used to doing. Growing up, my dad used to like gift us so many books. Do you remember, at the age of 7, he gifted us the autobiographies of Bildad Kagia and Jomo Kenyatta because they were part of the Kapenguria Six. And if I'm not wrong, I think we had the whole collection, and we were just 7. So we love reading, my sister and I love the fact that I got that passion back and the spark back, thanks to my book club. But if you want more in-depth reviews, especially about books, what we're reading, especially at the Bookish Collective, please make sure that, especially on TikTok, you follow our coordinator, Vanessa Mogora. She's the one who founded our book club. Amazing lady, fantastic group of ladies. And I hope you get to reading. Please share with me what book stood out to you the most for you this year. What are you currently reading? Let me know what you look for in a book. Does the cover make you want to buy a book? For me, not so much. I usually care more about the story. And like I said, I do have a bias to African authors. One thing, though, that I've realized that I didn't think was a thing for me was fantasy. So, I'm currently reading a 3-part fantasy that maybe I'll talk about soon. But yeah, thank you for joining me. So now you know that the books that I usually pile up here are not for decoration and that Mumbi has set up for me. I actually do read them. Mumbi was actually even asking me if I read them all. Yes, I do. And let me know what you're reading now. And I hope you enjoyed this one. And please share with me what you are currently reading so that I can also get into that. But thank you so much for being with me. Obviously, as always, I'm at Herway Studios, my production partners, amazing team. Please make sure that you also follow us on all our social media platforms at OMG Another Podcast. And then you can also find the podcast across all platforms, that is Spotify. I always forget this, Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. So until another time, I'll see you then. Speak soon. Make sure you read.